So, have you ever stopped to think, how a sudden windfall might actually change you?
Or yeah, or even grapple with those really fundamental questions like what the very first conversations about life and love might have sounded like.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving into this collection of writings that honestly cause a surprisingly fresh light on exactly those kinds of timeless questions and, well, a whole lot more about being human.
It's a really fascinating mix we've got laid out. We're talking a short story about a huge unexpected inheritance.
Right.
Then these imagined diary entries from Adam and Eve.
Which are amazing.
Yeah, and then sharp observations on social customs, some really witty takes on language, human nature. It's
Yeah.
quite the range.
It really is. And what's compelling, I think, is how these different pieces, these different voices sort of bounce off each other. They give you these unexpected angles on, what it means to be us. It's like seeing different facets of the same human experience.
Yeah, each one lighting up something else.
So our mission, if you will, for this deep dive is to really get under the skin of these texts, pull out the most compelling bits, the stuff that makes you think, and explore those big themes they keep returning to.
Okay, so let's kick things off with the $30,000 bequest. We meet Alec and Sally Foster living in this small town, Lakeside.
Right.
And there's this interesting detail. Right away, the town has this, unusually high number of churches compared to how many people live there.
Yeah, what's that about?
Well, the text suggests it reflects something about society out west and in the South back then, maybe a big emphasis on, outward appearances of piety.
Sets the scene. Okay, so Alec and Sally get this $30,000 out of the blue. Their reaction is, well, it's telling, isn't it?
Absolutely. Alec, he's this cautious bookkeeper type, right? Instantly worried.
About what? Saving it.
Exactly. Preserving the principal. He's already stressing about imaginary gas bills for a fancy brick house they don't even have yet.
Classic. And Sally.
Sally's ready to roll. She wants to enjoy this newfound wealth, right now.
So you've got that immediate tension. Pragmatism versus, I don't know, the urge to splurge.
Pretty much. And what's fascinating is how fast their own view of their social standing changes.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, suddenly the young guys, mechanics, who were courting their daughter's guys they privately thought were okay before.
Suddenly not good enough.
Not even close. The bar just shoots way up. Now they're thinking lawyers, merchants. It really digs into that maybe timeless human thing, right? That fear of being seen as less than and thinking wealth fixes everything.
Even in a small town like Lakeside. Yeah, that tracks. But Sally's way of handling the old suitors, Adelbert Peanut and Hosanna Dilkins Jr., it's actually pretty smart.
It is. Instead of just saying no, she uses this subtle, practical approach. Even Alec's kind of impressed.
Show some real social maneuvering skills there.
Definitely. But the story also hints there's this growing distance between Alec and Sally.
Ah, why that?
It mentions Sally having some kind of terrible revelation. Doesn't say what, but it leads to shame, bitterness.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she starts seeing Alec differently, especially on Sundays. He becomes this bloated and repulsive thing in her eyes.
Ouch. So the money isn't just changing their social plans, it's maybe exposing cracks that were already there.
It seems like it acts as a catalyst, yeah, bringing hidden tensions right to the surface. And Sally's ambitions for the daughters' marriages, they just keep escalating.
Right, wasn't it like local professionals first?
Then suddenly it's European aristocracy. We're talking baronets, barons, viscounts, earls.
The whole 9 yards.
All the way up to dukes. And Alec just goes along with it, sort of sarcastically, but he agrees. Adds this layer of, dark humor to the whole social climbing frenzy.
It's sharp satire, isn't it? That desire to move up, the wild fantasies that can come with it. Alec's agreement, is he just humoring her, or is he quietly mocking the whole thing?
Hard to say for sure. Maybe a bit of both. Then comes the big crash.
But wait, it's the imaginary investments crashing, right? They haven't actually spent the 30 grand.
Exactly. That's the kicker. They haven't touched the original money. But Sally completely melts down, convinced they're ruined.
Total panic.
But then Alec has this moment of, surprising clarity. He comforts her, points out, look, all we lost was the unmaterialized future, the potential.
We still have the actual money.
We still have the $30,000. The grand marriages, just postponed, not canceled.
Wow, that's a really powerful point about dreams versus reality, isn't it?
Yeah.
Getting lost in the what if.
Totally. They got so wrapped up in what the money could do, they forgot about what they actually had. It's a bit of a cautionary tale, Don't live in the hypotheticals.
Stay grounded. And Sally's trick for dodging questions about their money, using super fancy words.
Oh, it's brilliant. She busts out this incredibly sophisticated vocabulary. It leaves the nosy neighbors feeling all profane and embarrassed.
That's hilarious. A social defense mechanism.
A linguistic smokescream. Keeps up the illusion without revealing anything real.
So for you listening, this story really hits on something universal, I think. Dealing with big changes, good or bad.
Yeah, how those shifts affect our relationships, how we see ourselves, our place in the world.
It makes you ask, how do we manage expectations when life throws us a curveball, like a sudden fortune? Or anything else, really. How do we keep perspective?
And how much do we let social status define us? The Foster's journey, even though it's exaggerated and funny, gives you some real stuff to think about.
Okay, now we're something completely different. Let's switch gears to the extracts from Adam's diary and Eve's diary.
Talk about foundational.
Right, getting back to basics. What jumps out right away is just how different their perspectives are on those early days. Adam's diary. It's full of his, initial confusion about Eve showing up.
And her quirks, as he sees them.
Exactly.
Adam's entries have this wonderfully dry wit, though. His struggles with naming things, mistaking the dodo for a wildcat.
It's a classic.
It's pretty funny. And you see him start to rely on Eve's, knack for naming stuff.
She's just better at it.
Seems so. And his feelings for her change, too. Starts as annoyance, maybe, but deepens, especially when she disappears for a bit.
Yeah, you see that shift. And his observations about nature stars, why things fall, fires, he's just trying to figure it all out.
A curious mind in a brand new world, and his reactions to Eve's explanations are often just pure bewilderment.
So relatable. But then his eventual reason for loving her.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly sweet, isn't it?
Just because she's feminine and because deep down he sees some goodness in himself reflected in her. Yeah, it's simple, but quite touching.
And Eve's diary, a totally different vibe.
Oh, yeah. She's driven by this innate curiosity, wants to understand everything, name everything.
Very proactive.
And nurturing, too, towards Adam, the animals. Her take on their child, the fish, she calls it, shows that protective side.
And her explanation for the week?
Oh, that's priceless. Just lists the days. Now the whole week is done.
As if it were just that simple. Done and dusted.
And then, the whole snake episode.
Ah, yes. The great and fine and noble education, as she puts it.
I have a feeling Adam might have framed that slightly differently.
Just maybe. And her trying to figure out the lion and tiger sharp teeth, but eating grass.
Classic Eve. Always questioning, even when things don't seem to add up logically.
Her joy when Adam comes back after she wanders off. And her reason for loving him, his masculinity, his basic goodness, it mirrors his reasons in a really nice way.
It does. Beyond all the humor, you really see these fundamental differences in perspective, in communication style, shaping the very first relationship.
It's basically the timeless story of figuring each other out, just on the biggest possible stage.
And a reminder that even back then, relationships involved misunderstandings, changing feelings, and just different ways of seeing the world.
Okay, let's touch on some of the shorter but still really sharp pieces in this collection, like advice to little girls.
Right. The one that says, respect your elders.
Unless
they sass you first.
This is a practical, funny take on etiquette. Respect, but stand up for yourself too.
A nice little balance. Then there's the stuff about postmortem poetry from the Philadelphia Ledger.
Okay, explain that. Poems written after someone dies.
Exactly. Like tributes in the newspaper, and the examples given, like the Beckett obituary with its repeated lines, or the poem about the Belknap kids.
They're maybe a bit formulaic.
And sometimes unintentionally funny, yeah. It shows that human need to memorialize, to find meaning in loss, even if the poetry itself isn't, Shakespeare.
You can almost hear the poet reaching for those standard grief phrases. That friend whom death from us has torn. Apparently that was a popular one.
Seems like it. Then we jump to the satire on railway accidents.
Using crazy statistics.
Totally skewed numbers to poke fun at how dangerous people thought trains were. It's a clever way to show how easily stats can be twisted.
The good reminder to always look critically at numbers, right? Consider the source.
Definitely. Then there's the essay, Does the Race of Man Love a Lord?
Okay, provocative title. What's the argument?
Basically that humans are just naturally drawn to people in high-profile positions. Power, fame.
What examples does it use?
Things like supposedly people wanting to buy clippings of the Prince of Wales's hair, or the morbid fascination with the rope used in a lynching.
Wow, okay. Unsettling examples.
They are. It taps into maybe an uncomfortable truth about us, that fascination with status, power, even notoriety.
And you can see the link back to the Fosters and the Bequest story, right? their social climbing.
Absolutely, that same underlying drive.
But what about the telephonic conversation?
Oh, that's the perfect capture of early phone calls, the awkwardness, the long silences.
The talking over each other, the misunderstandings.
Total non sequiturs sometimes. It feels incredibly real. Even now, shows the challenge of communicating when you lose all the nonverbal stuff.
For sure. Then there's Edward Mills and George Benton, A Tale. What's that one about?
It's a story about appearances versus reality. Edward seems like the good guy, totally virtuous, but meets a tragic end. George, who seems sorry for his past actions, turns out to be the bad guy who commits a terrible crime.
So don't judge a book by its cover.
Exactly. A strong reminder about looking deeper than the surface.
And wait, there's a second chapter to the $30,000 bequest.
Yeah, but this time it's told from the perspective of the family dog.
No way.
Yep. It's a completely different, often hilarious take on the whole situation. The dog's just observing everything, totally loyal to Sally, even as she gets weirder and weirder.
That sounds amazing. A dog's eye view of human folly.
It's charming and actually pretty insightful. Sometimes the simplest view is the clearest.
Okay, let's quickly hit a few more unusual ones. A Cure for the Blues. And this writer, G. Ragsdale McClintock.
Oh, McClintock. His writing style is described as just over-the-top, super ornate language. Like the example, like the topmost topaz of an ancient tower. Sounds grand, right?
Yeah, but what does it mean?
Exactly. It's all sound and fury, signifying nothing, basically. Style completely swamping substance.
A masterclass in empty eloquence.
Okay.
And Italian without a master.
Hilarious. It's about trying to learn Italian just by reading a newspaper with zero actual knowledge of the language.
That sounds difficult.
The misinterpretations are epic. Getting the general idea but missing everything important, like thinking the king was being enlarged at the hospital.
Oh, dear. And wasn't there something about chickens?
Yes. Trying to learn verbs with a drill using chickens. Ebby Polly, I had chickens. Just pure comedy about the struggles of language learning.
Captures the absurdity perfectly. What about a burlesque biography?
That's a self-deprecating take on autobiography. Inventing ancestors, skipping generations.
Doesn't take itself too seriously.
Not at all. There's a funny bit about being born without teeth and the whole family arguing over his name. Very unconventional life story.
And an entertaining article. That's the one about the critic, right?
Yeah, the English critic who reviewed Mark Twain's Innocents Abroad completely seriously.
Totally missed the satire.
Completely. And Twain's reaction, claiming he actually wrote the clueless review himself, is just perfect. It really highlights how humor, especially satire, can just fly over people's heads.
That gap between author's intent and reader's understanding.
Exactly. And briefly, there's a monument to Adam, this tongue-in-cheek idea to build a monument to Adam after Darwin's book came out.
Did anyone take it seriously?
Surprisingly, yes. Bankers got interested. There were elaborate plans, though nothing came of it. Shows how even weird ideas can catch on.
And we should also mention The Danger of Lying in Bed and Portrait of King William III are in there too, just adding to the sheer variety.
It's a real grab bag, but in a good way.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what are the main threads holding all these different pieces together?
Well, we've definitely seen the complexities of wealth, right? How it messes with social status, relationships.
For sure. And the real basics of human connection, going right back to Adam and Eve.
Yeah, those fundamental dynamics, plus just all the quirks and weird things about human nature itself.
The good, the bad, the funny.
And the power of language, how we use it, misuse it, how absurd it can be sometimes.
It feels like these writings, even though they're all over the place in style and topic, offer these timeless, often funny reflections on stuff that, well, it still feels relevant.
Absolutely. They show that while times change, maybe people don't, deep down. Not really. Certain core human experiences just keep echoing.
So with that in mind, maybe a final thought for you listening. Think about which of these human tendencies or social quirks we talked about today feels the most real or maybe the most surprising in our world right now.
Yeah, and why? How might some of these insights gleaned from this pretty eclectic mix actually shape how you view things or interact with people day to day?
Definitely something to chew on.